The program, two-way tonight. The host, me. The community, you. The news, varied. And our guests, awesome. Two great guests. I'll be honest with you because we don't hype here. It's not the biggest news day of all of 2026. It's just not. But there is news, and the program just flies by. It's like watching Fantasia. Before you know it, it's over, and you think, well, I should rewind and watch the whole thing again on mushrooms or some other hallucinogen. That's what this program's like, which is not to say you should watch it on a hallucinogen. It goes by fast. That's the point I'm making. Show will go by fast, including at the end of the show, the surprise no Henry twist, your participation. If you're here on the two-way platform, would like to participate, raise your hand. The audience grows, and as the audience grows, we have newbies here, people who have no idea how it works. If you're watching on X or YouTube, you have two responsibilities. Don't raise your hand. That's one responsibility because I can't see you. And the other big responsibility is no smack in the chat. Sometimes I go with the reverse psychology and say, put all the smack in the chat you want. If I do that, there's a lot of smack in the chat. If I say, as I traditionally do, no smack in the chat, guess what? Same thing. Smack in the chat. I want to quit or be cloned, and I want to write a sociology PhD thesis on why people put smack in the chat. Here of all places. I get why you do it on other shows, chat capabilities. And I do wonder what happened if we shut down the chat. Would it be good for America or bad? Bad for our business, because the only thing people like more than putting smack in the chat is reading other people's smack, which I find even in some ways sicker, truly. Anyway, the markets went down today. When the markets go down, I say to my colleagues, well, why'd the markets go down? They say, oh, because the war. People in the equities markets don't like the war, rising gas prices, oil prices, etc. And then on other days when the war is just as raging, they say, well, the markets went up because chips went up, or they like the earnings reports. It seems to me the war is the war, and it's bigger than the earnings reports. But today, S&P closed down, Dow closed down, NASDAQ down, oil went up, Brent crude went up, gas still right around that magic line of $4 a gallon. As we speak, it's become a tradition here on Two-Way Tonight. Right around the time we go on the air, CENTCOM uses its X account to say they're hitting targets again. So we'll talk about the strikes and the implications of that. Mr. Mondami, Mayor Mondami, after doing an interview with the New York Times, which he actually did like a week ago, if I remember correctly, but they held it. And I'm just, that nice lady who does their interviews, she seems very nice, but she's so liberal. She's so liberal. I don't understand how the New York Times could just say, yeah, we're going to have our marquee interviews be done by a liberal, and then say, well, we're an objective news organization. Let her write for the opinion page. Anyway, she interviewed her comrade, Mayor Mondami, and he said, he said he was going to arrest Netanyahu, maybe. But then he said, well, I got to check with the lawyers. Maybe I can't. And I read that as an exit strategy, that basically he knew he couldn't arrest Netanyahu. And everybody was emphasizing the part where he said, well, we might arrest him. And I was emphasizing the part where he said, well, I got to check with the lawyers. Well, I look stupid today because the mayor came out today and said, oh, yeah, we're going to arrest him. President Trump had something to say about that. We'll show you that. Man set fire to federal building outside the federal building in Manhattan. Former military allegedly yelled something about ICE, not positive. And the reason we're going to talk about it, frankly, as we say in Gotham City, if it bleeds, it leads. There's incredible footage of the guy approaching the building and setting off the fire. So we'll show you that, and you'll hear what Mr. Homan had to say about that. Not a big fan, Mr. Homan. Scotty Bashir, governor of is that his name? Scott Bashir?
And Andy.
Andy, his dad maybe was Scotty. Anyway, Andy Bashir, governor of Kentucky, continues to say he's very unhappy that he's heard nothing from Senator McConnell. Maybe he thinks all those things are AI. Maine Democrats continue to rally around Troy Jackson. But maybe our lead story, when we bring our guests in a moment, Darlene Graham tells Sean Hannity, oh yeah, she's running for a full term. I really didn't see this one either. I probably should resign as host of the program because I'm supposed to be here to tell you what might happen. I'm really surprised she's running for a full term. I'll tell you, the way you beat a front runner, and she's got to be the front runner now, she's the incumbent senator endorsed by Donald Trump. The way you beat a front runner in South Carolina politics, I use the vernacular here, not literally, but figuratively, although Joe Biden would say literally, you got to rip their face off. And I can't imagine anybody's going to rip the face off of a grieving sister. Primaries in like 2 weeks. Anyway, other people may still run. Nancy Mace is not running, she said moments ago, but other people may run. So it's going to be potentially interesting primary. And remember, there's a runoff, and if nobody gets to 50, then she might get to 50. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, those are the topics we'll be discussing, and anything else that comes up. And then, of course, anything else you want to raise. If you want to ask our guests how to get a career in journalism, if you want to ask me where I get my hair cut, if you want to ask me to tell you my best George W. Bush story, anything you want, it's open. It's open to the community. Raise your hand. If you've never raised your hand before and you raise your hand today, I promise not only would I be nice to you, our guests will be extraordinarily nice to you, because our guests are extraordinarily nice, and they'll be here in a moment after a quick word from a sponsor. And then they'll be here, and then we'll do our thing. USAFacts.org. USA Facts is a nonprofit founded by Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer made a fortune doing a bunch of stuff, including Microsoft. He owns the Clippers. He could ride off into the sunset. He could just go from Ritz-Carlton to Four Seasons to Ritz-Carlton if he wanted to. But he cares about America, and he's created this nonprofit. They've been our partners on past projects. USA Facts. What they do is they get government data and they display it in a way that's accessible to the public. Because their theory of the case is the same as this community's. Good facts lead to good public policy debates. You get on the national town square, you want to know latest crime stats, the latest economic stats, whatever it is. You can't have informed public debate without timely statistics. We pay the government to get all these statistics. The government produces better and more statistics than anyone. But what USA Facts is concerned about is the timely release. My challenge to everybody in the community is to sign the open letter that USA Facts is going to present to the government at the end of the month, asking for better information to lead to better decisions, to release more of the data they have in a more timely way, so you're not debating crime with statistics that are 3 years old. It makes no sense. The statistics need to be collected and released in a timely fashion to inform all of our public debates over everything, really. Healthcare, infrastructure, whatever it is. Go to usafacts.org right now. You'll see a pink banner. Click on it. Very easy. You can read the open letter. And just asking everybody to put their name on it. Ambitious goal. My challenge is to get 100,000 members of the two-way community to sign the open letter. There's nothing controversial about it, really, but it's important to show that our community believes in something very consistent with our platform, our posture towards conversation in this country about public policy, government. Go to usafacts.org right now. Please click on the pink banner and add your name to the open letter. All right. Our guests tonight, both returning Jeopardy champions. Am I right that Rob's been here before? I'm embarrassed to say I can't recall. Probably been here 20 times. But, you know, when you get to be my age, and both our guests will someday get to be my age. Rob, you been here before? You got to unmute. That means Rob hasn't been here because he doesn't know he's got to unmute.
There we go. I tried to unmute earlier and I was told I couldn't unmute myself.
Yeah.
So here we are. Yeah, this is my first time.
First time. All right. That's what I said. Rob's never been here. Rob is the political journalist at the Washington Examiner. You've worked other great places though, Rob, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been around the place. The Daily Mail, Daily Telegraph, a whole bunch of other places as well.
Now, let me tell you about Rob, ladies and gentlemen. Rob is the kind of journalist, when he goes to family reunions and some jealous cousin calls him an ink-stained wretch, Rob says, damn right I'm an ink-stained wretch. Rob just loves a great story. Rob, thank you for being here. Again, at the Washington Examiner now, covering politics. Thank you for being here. And returning Jeopardy champion, Josh Christenson, is here. Josh has the best job in journalism. Sorry, Rob. Maybe you have the second best job. Washington Bureau Chief of the New York Post. Literally, I can't imagine a better job anybody could have in journalism. It's the best newspaper in the world, and the Washington Bureau is a hotbed of great stories. Josh, welcome back. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Love having you guys on. Let's start with this South Carolina thing. It's common for widows to, in politics, in American politics at least, to get their husbands' jobs if they pass away, either in an election or get appointed. But almost always they're caretakers. I meant to do the data earlier. One of my colleagues will do it right now, like we're Joe Rogan and we do the research live on the show. How many spouses who filled unexpired terms of their deceased relatives, husbands mostly, ran on their own subsequently? It happens, but I think it's the exception. This isn't a spouse. This is a sister. And here's Senator Graham, just sworn in last week, telling Sean Hannity, oh yeah, she's going for 6 years. Number 16, please.
And again saying, I hope Darlene does this.
meaning I hope you will get. And here's the filing deadline for people that don't know, and these are just the laws of South Carolina. The filing begins tomorrow. I think you have a week.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And by that time, the funerals won't even have taken place.
I know.
And then the president's putting an ask on you, we'll put it that way. It's a lot of pressure.
It is a tremendous amount of pressure.
Tell me what's going through your head about it, and where do you stand now?
I'll continue to say I've been praying a lot, talking to my family, but with the love of my family, with the support of his staff. I know I'm a hard worker. I learned that from Lindsay. He cared about the people of this state. I've worked for almost 30 years for the people of this state.
I want to talk about that in a minute.
I feel like I can do it. I feel an inner peace about it. Will it be difficult? Yes, absolutely.
So you're inclined to get in, or have you even made a final decision?
I've made a decision.
You're in.
I'm in.
She's in. I'm wrong. Most widows actually end up running in their own right, apparently. But again, she's not a widow, and she'd never run for anything, although she's been around public policy. Josh, what do you think of this? Is she the clear front runner? Is she going to even have a primary challenge? No one else is officially in, as far as I know.
Well, Russell Fry announced
that he's running.
I believe in the Senate. Yeah.
I think Ralph Norman also kind of announced, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Did he announce or did he express interest? He actually said, "I'm running."
I seem to recall seeing earlier today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So those are two congressmen. One very aligned with President Trump, Mr. Fry. One far less so, Mr. Norman. He supported Nikki Haley. Okay. So she may have opponents. Do you make her the front runner, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Trump cleared the field for her even before she was ready last week for the caretaker position. I spoke to her briefly, I believe, a week ago today when this was all happening rather quickly after Senator Graham passed away. And she was, of course, still devastated by that. But I think even a few hours later, when she was speaking at the podium in South Carolina after McMaster announced that she would be in this interim slot, you could see that she saw this as an opportunity to continue the legacy of her brother, to stand for the same positions and to honor him in that way. And I think that's something over the last week, and this interview, she shows that as well. That's something she really wants to take up the mantle of.
Yeah, full interview years on Hannity tonight. Josh was right. I was wrong. Again, somebody take the show away from me. Here's what Russell Fry put on Twitter. South Carolina doesn't need just another senator. It needs President Trump's strongest ally in the United States Senate. Make no mistake, I will be President Trump's favorite U.S. senator, and you will have a MAGA fighter you can count on. Mr. Barrasso, number 2 Republican senator, has endorsed Graham, says she has his full support. Tom Cotton endorsed her too, but John Thune says he's staying neutral for now. And it's unclear if Tim Scott, who heads the Senate committee, will endorse. According to Punchbowl, Nancy Mace, who's not running, plans to endorse Ralph Norman. Rob, this seems like a novel situation. Do you make her the front runner? How would you expect the dynamics of this thing to work out?
Well, seeking political power through the patronage of President Trump is indeed upholding the fine traditions of the Graham family. Yeah, she looks like the front runner. In fact, I was writing about this race earlier today because the Oppo is coming in already.
On
Russell,
who?
Russell Fry used a consultant during previous House re-election campaign, R.J. May, who was arrested last year. His phone searched and kiddie porn was found on it. He was sentenced earlier this year to more than 17 years in federal prison. The judge said it was some of the most disgusting images he'd ever seen. I reached out to the Fry campaign. They immediately said, well, this is all very well, but R.J. May has worked for other people in South Carolina, and in fact pointed me at the 2017 campaign of Ralph Norman. So it could be that there's an easy way out to avoid this rather unsavory business around some of the consultants these candidates have worked with in the past. And you go with the sibling. So I think you said widows have run in their own right before. I think this would be the first sibling, if
Yeah.
she were to win, to take up a place in the Senate. So there's already a lot of mess in this race, but there is now an easy way out for Republicans here.
Yeah. Other bit of two other bits of breaking news I didn't mention. I'll ask you guys to comment on them, and then we're going to talk about Iran. One is White House officials, administration officials announced a little while ago that they're going to put 50% tariffs on most Canadian products, not all, but a lot of Canadian products, in retaliation for what they say is unfair trade practices by the Canadians. This in the context of a lack of clarity about what's happening with the overall tripart trade deal between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. The officials who were briefing, who demanded they not be named, wouldn't really be specific about where those trade talks stand. And a federal judge today told Paramount to wait at least 2 weeks before they consummate their merger or their takeover to acquire uh, what I call Warner Brothers. So those two things happened. Guys, either comments on either of those stories? Josh, you first.
On the sorry, what was the first one again? That
The
was the one.
Canadian 50%
Yeah,
tariffs on
so we
Canadians.
knew we I guess yeah, this just came across in a I think it was a background briefing with a lot of the White House reporters.
Yeah,
I guess the interesting thing is Trump didn't, mention this at all when he was with Carney during
yeah,
the World Cup.
yeah.
Just sort of
The briefer said it wasn't really an official thing. It was just like sports. So
yeah.
he decided not to
Think
mention it.
you think you want to give him a heads up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he also said nice things about Carney. He said he liked Carney,
Mhm.
but not so much to give him a heads up. There's about to destroy his economy. And you got anything you want to say about the Paramount Warner thing?
I haven't been following that super closely other than I
Yeah,
guess I was noticing the is it the Democratic state attorney generals are kind of trying to
yeah.
slow that down
They've
through
got a
the
big suit to slow it down,
yeah,
and
so
that's
I've been
part of what
watching that,
influenced it.
but no, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to cause much of an issue long
Yeah.
term.
Rob, thoughts on those two stories before we switch to Iran?
Um, yeah, I mean, I've heard you express your irritation with some of these anonymous background briefings in the past. Do you remember there used to be a Twitter account that would simply out the officials who are
Yeah,
on these calls? I
yeah,
think someone needs to reinstate that because
yeah,
it sometimes, the whole thing, sometimes the officials you're hearing from are simply restating White House talking points, and it beggars belief that these are conducted on background. So
yeah.
that's one thing I'd say. Also, I mean, the White House playing down any idea of talks between Carney and Trump at the World Cup yesterday. Mark Carney gave Trump the win, didn't he? You remember Trump kind of racing across the podium to have his photograph taken with the victorious Spanish players when they were awarded the World Cup, with Gianni Infantino rushing across to try and beckon Trump out of the way. So you would have thought the president would have come away with lots of warm feelings for his Canadian and Mexican
Yeah.
friends after yesterday. Obviously, it
Maybe,
didn't last.
maybe he was going to do 60% because of the warm feelings. He put it down to 50. I got to say, I'm not sure I've ever expressed irritation with the briefings being done in background. I do think it's kind of silly, but you're right that often there's really no reason for it. In this case, I just tell people it's always Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller's the briefer every time. This was not Stephen Miller, just to be clear. All right, here's the tweet from CENTCOM. Again, every day it's like Groundhog Day, 4 o'clock or so Eastern Time. Number one, please. CENTCOM says something like this. Today at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. forces began a new round of strikes against Iran at the commander-in-chief's direction. The strikes are designed to further degrade Iranian military capabilities used to attack commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Um, here's from the Washington Post, number 3, please. U.S. Iran trade strikes as Houthis declare blockade of Red Sea oil route. As I said this morning, Admiral Stavridis says perhaps Iran's going to try to cut off the Suez Canal. And here is the Wall Street Journal headline, an exclusive bit of reporting that dovetails number 3 with what others have reported over the weekend about these American deaths and injuries in the wake of Iran strikes. Number 3, please. Sorry, number 4, please. My apologies. Iran missile strike struck housing for U.S. troops at Jordan base. Deadly attack was one of 3 missiles that hit bases, showing difficulties in protecting Iranian missiles against Iranian missile and drone attacks. These bases and some of these offices that are used, barracks that are used, they're not secure buildings. And if the air defense, missile defense doesn't stop them, it's a problem. Here's the president on Truth Social today. We haven't seen the president on camera today, but he did post on a variety of topics. Number 5, please. The president said, every time Iran kills an American soldier, I think he means active duty personnel, since they're not all soldiers, they will pay for that killing many times over. This directive has been passed on to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs Daniel Kaine, and every leader in the military, President Trump. Rob, people think, I don't think anybody's in any doubt that there's going to be more U.S. strikes and Iran counterstrikes. The conventional wisdom now seems to be it'll stay relatively low level, that it won't go to 11 because the president doesn't want to risk the counter strikes and doesn't want to upset equity markets and the price of gas. Other people believe the president is headed towards escalation. Based on your reporting, spidey sense, gut, years of fingertip feel, which of those two camps would you put yourself in?
I mean, the two are not mutually exclusive. I think the president thinks he can run this at a low level, but events have a habit of getting in the way. He may not want an escalation, but what he's signaling tonight is if a US life is lost, he's going to turn everything back up to 11. So I thought CNN put it quite well today in one of their analysis pieces. They talked about an exit vacuum. I'm not feeling any real strategy here. I hear officials talking about putting maximum pressure on Iran to force them to the negotiating table. But what is this about now? Is this about reopening the Strait of Hormuz? Is this about avenging American deaths? Have we parked the issue of Iran's nuclear program? We've never had clear objectives here, which just constantly mean we run the risk of this spiraling out of control. Trump wants another Venezuela, and it's not always going to be as easy as that.
Yeah. Well said. You speak the point of view of tens of millions of people, I think. Josh, is you and your bureau, does this seem like it's about to turn in a different direction or just more of the same this week?
Well, he had the comment about the deaths of the service members and answering the killing with much more robust strikes than had been happening since kind of the MOU was torn up. So I would imagine it is an escalation.
Yeah, well said. All right, let's talk about Mayor Mondami. As I said, over the weekend, a New York Times interview suggested I thought that he was backing down from his campaign pledge to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, who he says is a war criminal and architect of genocide. But today, the mayor reaffirmed his intention if and when Netanyahu comes to New York, for example, this September for the United Nations General Assembly, he plans to throw cuffs on him. Number 6, please.
Benjamin Netanyahu, we're speaking about someone who's the subject of an international criminal court arrest warrant. And he's the subject of this arrest warrant for alleged crimes against humanity, for war crimes, and he's the architect of the genocide against Palestinians in Gaza as Israel's prime minister. These are not facts of my personal assessment, they are facts of public record. And I believe that when someone is charged with an international criminal court warrant, it's something that should be taken seriously, whether it's Benjamin Netanyahu or it's Vladimir Putin or whomever else. What I've also made clear is that my administration will follow all applicable local laws. That is our commitment. That is something that we will follow through on when it comes to an adherence to local law. And that's all I have to add on that.
Thank you. And now we're going to go to Heather from News 12.
Are you looking at arresting anybody else on that list of people who've committed international war crimes?
My point is that if someone is charged with a warrant by the International Criminal Court for these kinds of crimes, that's something I believe that should be honored. And I've also said that we will follow our local laws.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know. Again, he does mention the local laws as he did the Times interview, but he seemed to be leaning pretty heavily in this remarks today. President Trump's national security advisor over the weekend said there's just no basis to arrest him. Here's what the president said today, number 8 on Truth Social. Netanyahu will not be arrested in any way, shape, or form while in the United States. He is fighting against the Islamic Republic of Iran. The only ones who should be arrested are the people that led Iran into this unprecedented spiral of death and destruction, something that should have been dealt with years ago. Rob, will Netanyahu come to the United States? Will he go to New York? And if so, will the mayor try to arrest him?
Um, I haven't the faintest idea. I mean,
Yeah.
the US isn't a signatory to the statute that set up the
Yeah.
ICC. So is there? I mean, I'm just filled with questions. Is there a
Yeah.
mechanism for this to even happen? You know, as you can tell, I'm a Brit. The United Kingdom is a signatory to the ICC. Ministers have danced around this question for the past couple of years about whether they could do it, whether they should do it, whether they might challenge it on some legal basis. So this just all fills me with questions. And like you, Mark, I was struck by Mamdani's reference to local rules or statutes or whatever it was. He's giving himself an out at every stage. So I'm really none the wiser by any of
Yeah.
this.
Josh, normally I don't root for great news stories that are not necessarily in the public interest. I find that unseemly. But man, I got to admit, I sort of root for this one. Be a great New York Post story of Netanyahu landing, Mandami cops going up to him in JFK, trying to arrest him, and Netanyahu security, and he has massive security, as big security as probably anybody on the planet except for Putin, and then some Trump. Like Stephen Miller, like coming and knocking the New York cops down, like it'd be kind of messy, and certainly they're not going to negotiate. So this is really much ado about nothing, right? Like even if Mondami tried to arrest him, he couldn't really get anywhere near the guy.
It reminds me of it's like is the best that Mamdani can get is like a reverse of what Tucker Carlson says happened when he was over in Israel, where he's sort of awkwardly
Right,
detained
right,
in a ante room. Yeah, no, there's no way. The local laws strikes me as a dodge similar to the previous dodge, appealing to like we're checking with the lawyers. And he would mostly be in federal custody from the airport to
right.
the UN. So you would have to make quite a show to get. I assume the NYPD would be the potential arresting agency. I don't know how Jessica Tisch would feel about that either. So
Yeah, good
yeah,
point.
highly
I just
unlikely.
I think tonight I'll stay up late and make the whole thing with AI, and everybody can see what it would look like with the crossfire of
Mock
all the
up wood
yeah.
page, yeah.
Yeah, with mock up the wood. Let's right now. Let's brainstorm the three of us. What would the wood be if they arrested Netanyahu? BB behind bars. That's my opening bid.
Yeah.
BB behind bars. What else you got?
Uh, Gosh, I mean, that's a yeah. I don't know if I have on,
BB behind bars
on that.
might be too
Yeah,
long for the wood. Is probably too long. Uh,
yeah,
Netin got him. I don't know. Rob, you got a
yeah.
wood for us real
I
quick?
I feel like I'm letting this side down as a British tabloid hack. I should be all
Yeah.
over this, but
No.
I got nothing.
Mondami nets BB. That's not
Yeah.
bad. Anyway,
Netanyahu nabbed.
yeah, Netanyahu nab. That's good. Uh, nothing better than alliteration in a tabloid headline. One more. Let's just say it's got to have BB in it, though, doesn't it?
It probably wouldn't be a pun either. It probably would just be
We
because
just
when
be nabbed.
things are shocking, it's more
Yeah,
just kind of the basic
yeah.
facts of,
BB done.
BB done. BB gun.
That was my
Uh,
pun. Yeah.
yeah. All right, we'll keep working on it. BB busted. Also good. I don't look at the chat, but I glance at it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, got to show you this video because you don't see this every day. Guy apparently because he doesn't like ice walked up to the federal building in downtown Manhattan and just set the fire. Number 10, please. Is there no audio on this? Here's the guy. That's security
Looks like a
cameras.
woman gasping.
Yeah. Spills the stuff.
Guys,
And then boom.
oh my
And then
God!
runs away.
Oh my God!
Yeah, good reaction, lady. That's a bigger fire than I thought
Oh
it
my
was.
God! Get away
Good
from
good camera
there!
work, good pan. Let's pan back to the fire, lady.
Oh my God,
And
get away from there! No,
yeah,
no,
don't
no,
get away from there. Go
from
put it out.
there.
All right, so here's the man who's accused of doing it. Here's a photo of him being arrested. Number 11, please. His name is Andrew Arabaka. There you can see him being arrested. Here is here's the FBI press conference. Number 12, please.
His goal was to target the building. He said that and I'm not going to get into all the details of a post-arrest interview, but he was Mirandized, read his rights. He did agree to talk. in that arrest interview, he did say he was targeting the building and he was okay if he hurt or killed people going in and out of the building, whether they were federal employees or civilians. I would mention a lot of business was canceled, not by the Federal Protective Services. Federal Protective Services, once they mitigated the situation, the building remained open, employees could come and go, and we continue to do work. But some agencies decided to close business for the day. There was a naturalization ceremony scheduled for today that was canceled. And the one civilian victim was an immigrant that had a hearing today for their immigration status. So that's quite unfortunate and quite ironic at the same time.
That guy, that assistant FBI director, as President Trump would say, that guy's from Central Casting. That was just like, that was a G-man briefing.
Would.
Tom Homan, as you can imagine, is ticked off about this. Here's Mr. Homan talking about ICE being targeted. Number 13, please.
Appreciate the comments from Mandami and Jeffries, but too little too late. They spent a year attacking ICE, comparing ICE. So let's abolish ICE because they're fascists. ICE are Nazis. ICE are racist. ICE is a secret police. ICE isn't a real law enforcement agency. Fail to comply with ICE. I see the signs every protest resist. So look, they have educated people that they can resist ICE, and the hateful rhetoric continues, which we've had some tragedies recently because people didn't want to comply with ICE. So this is yet another example today, what happened in front of the federal buildings, another example of attacking ICE. And I'm sure if you ask that person why he did it, he can repeat the talking points I just said that you hear from Democratic members of Congress, the Democratic mayors and governors who simply want ICE to go away.
So again, I've said this before, I don't see a contradiction between the following two things. The Maine man, who was in the United States working and living legally as a dad, who was killed, he's dropped off not just the front pages. There's almost nothing in the news about him today. People told me this would dominate the Maine Senate race. I don't hear anybody talking about it. That man should not have been killed. At the same time, ICE agents and people in law enforcement in America should not be targeted, should not be doxxed, should not be threatened. Tom Homan gets threats, and he doesn't like that. Here's Tom Homan. Number 14, please.
Guys, ICE agents are mom and dads too. They don't hang their heart on a hook every day to do this job. And it's just not attacking the ICE agents, it's attacking their spouses and children, and no one knows that better than me. I can't even go get a quart of milk at a grocery store without a security detail. Why? Because I'm enforcing laws in this country. It's pathetic and it's disgusting. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Homan.
So, Josh, AP and NPR and maybe others have reported on the background of the alleged shooter who killed that Maine man. And that guy should not have been anywhere near ICE, if what his relatives all say on the record about him. Why has that story disappeared from the news over the weekend? Why isn't everybody demanding to know? Because that guy, there seems to be some connection between failure to screen that guy properly and his killing someone in this country legally.
There's still scattered discussion, I think, of it, and will be this week in Congress. I saw something from Rosa DeLaura talking about, her objections in the appropriations process with respect to, funding of DHS ICE, and still trying to keep up that talking point. So I imagine there will be more explicit comments about the agent himself. If I remember correctly, the agent, it was sort of reporting on his ex-wife, what she was saying about
two ex-wives.
There's more to dig into there, in terms of, are there going to be leaks about sort of his DHS personnel record, different incidents like that? It's possible. But we saw this with Freddie and with Good and some of these other incidents where about the most that gets leaked out is there'll be a brief, 1 or 2 pager sent to the Homeland Security committees on the Hill, laying out a couple basic facts, and then that'll usually be the end of the discussion, unless some enterprising, what does Elon Musk call them? Citizen journalists or whatever. We got
Yeah.
that video of
Yeah.
Freddie out right with him kicking out the back of the car. I'm sure there will be videos coming out of this guy in past incidents if similar sleuths are up to it. But sometimes it takes time for it to come out. The Democrats, like, it'd be interesting to see if Troy Jackson in Maine, who wants to abolish ICE, will start talking about this more.
Yeah.
Or is it the Michigan Senate race? Whether that'll become a point to talk about. I'm not sure. I don't know if they want to focus on this as much as they want to focus on some of the other things they've been talking about in those races.
Yeah, Rob, what do you think of these issues, dueling indignities over both sides on ice?
It's a really fascinating question, and it's one of the things that kind of first occurred. I landed in this country in 2014. In my first week, I was working for the Telegraph, and my editor said, "Oh, could you get up to Ferguson? There's some protests there. Dig into it." And you remember that was the killing of Michael Brown, one of the first sort of big protest movements that gave rise to the whole Black Lives Matter movement. And the question was, well, this kind of stuff happens. Why did this killing spark a movement, and why don't others? And in the same way, you watch what's happened in the past week or so, and like you, Mark, I was surprised that it's almost kind of gone quiet over the past couple of days. I don't know the answer to it. I mean, I think there are, as you say, if videos come out which are particularly damning, if high-profile lawyers get involved, keeping the story in the spotlight. Some families don't want to get involved in these political questions because we know how polarized everything is, and sometimes the memory of the person involved gets subsumed by these much bigger issues. But there's a whole series of factors, and I'd love to read the academic thesis on what it is about certain episodes in public life that become the starting point for huge political movements, and on which of them seem to disappear more quickly.
Yeah, it's a great question, truly. You mentioned Troy Jackson. I've been telling folks there's going to be opposition research on Troy Jackson. Some of it will come from reporters. Some of it will come from Republicans. Some of it may come from Democrats, because this guy's completely unvetted. And people say, oh, he was president of the Senate. No, he's now running for the United States Senate, Maine Senate. He's now running for the U.S. Senate. Here's the first blush of this. But again, I'm just telling you, folks, there's going to be more. This guy's not been vetted. He ran for governor. Nothing. There's no vetting when you run for governor of anything, even governor of California. This seat, if Republicans can knock this guy out in July and August, they'll keep the Senate majority, almost certainly. So there's high stakes here. I'm going to read you the 3 paragraphs from the New York Washington Post story that ran a few minutes ago. And our 2 journalistic experts are going to tell us much ado about nothing, knockout blow, or somewhere in between. Here we go, gentlemen. Troy Jackson, a powerful Maine legislator now running for Senate, once angrily threw a water bottle in a meeting after he couldn't persuade a lawmaker to vote his way. He yelled at another lawmaker, prompting her to post on social media that straight men were, quote, too emotional to be in politics. And he cursed and shouted in a meeting with the Speaker of Maine's State House until she kicked him out of her office. During the 6 years Jackson presided over Maine's Senate until 2024, his temper was a feature of his leadership and one that Democratic lawmakers discussed amongst themselves as a problem and even raised with the governor. Rob, is this much ado about nothing, or death for his candidacy?
Well, first of all, let me put it on record that I will never run for anything. I think
you've thrown your share of water bottles.
I've thrown a water bottle or 2 in my time. I don't know. I mean, look, I think Troy Jackson's super interesting. The Democrats think they've absolutely played a blinder here. Is that something you say? They think they've had a real result here because they've found a candidate who they think will inherit all of the good stuff from Plattner. This kind of progressive leftist coalition that they think can beat Susan Collins. But I think there's kind of actually a real test here. Was it the progressive politics side of things? Was it his populist platform that was attracting people to Plattner? Or was it his outsider status? Was it the fact that people didn't know a lot about him, that he was a blank slate, that they could almost project their hopes and dreams onto? So I think, in terms of the bigger picture for where Democrats go, I think they're in a real learning moment with what's happening in Maine. They've got an actual falsifiability test here that could tell them which is the right course and which is the wrong course, and what's going on. Look, in the age of Trump and everything that we've seen in terms of scandals, we know that these reports out of the Washington Post, unpleasant though they are not necessarily enough to derail a candidate, unless Maine Democrats have got incredibly jumpy over what's happened with Plattner. Of course, no one can pull this sort of thing off quite like Trump, who can steamroll his way through any crisis. It's always a mistake to think you can get through it. Democrats want authenticity. We all want authenticity. That comes with some warts. This doesn't sound to me like a candidate ending revelation. But of course, it's what comes next. If there are dozens more reports and it all snowballs, then it's a different matter.
Well said, Josh. I always love to read how the campaign or the supporters of someone accused of things, how they respond. And my favorite thing is if somebody is quoted saying something embarrassing, they always say the same three things. They say, "Never said it," taken out of context, apologized for saying it. They'll say all three. In this case, I'm just skimming the Post story. Basically, they have three defenses. One is my favorite. He's so passionate about the people of Maine that his temper gets the best of him because he's so passionate. Two is they dispute some of the facts in the story. And three, they say he's sorry for sometimes losing his temper. Josh, do you think this is going somewhere? Do you have a team of reporters on Plattner? I mean, on Jackson Tempergate?
We got a tip on the water bottle thing like 2 or 3 weeks ago, around the time when Plattner was like on the way out. And I remember, I think the detail there that if it becomes something that I guess Republicans or disgruntled Democrats want to seize on, it's the male to female,
Yeah, that's a big part of this story.
Right. It's, being angry is, if anything, as they're trying to spin in the statement, is helpful to his image. He's seen as kind of a soft-spoken former logger turned lawmaker, doesn't have the juice really, and he's not very charismatic. So if he shows more passion, as they put it, wouldn't be the worst thing for his image for that race.
Yeah. A few more topics then to your questions, comments, suggestions. Please raise your hand if you'd like to. Friday, the day before the weekend of state convention, county conventions at which Jackson sewed this up, he talked to reporters and he was asked if he'd been fully vetted. Laughable premise, trust me. He said this, he said, people know I wear my heart on my sleeve and that he's passionate about the issues, but there, quote, isn't going to be anything that will come out and sink his campaign. I would pay more than 40 cents, and I don't normally pay anything for anything, that no one in Jackson's life has asked him, is there anything in your background that if it came out would cost you this Senate race? I bet you they haven't asked him that question. And to the extent that they have, I bet he said the same thing he said to the press with no basis whatsoever. Oh no, absolutely not. This guy is totally unvetted, and I don't know the exact transom over which the NRSC will throw the research that they have, but it's coming. Josh, make sure there's space above the transom. Does your office have a transom? You know what that is? You might be too young.
Yeah, I think I'm a little too young.
Yeah. So a transom, I don't know what they're actually for. Someone will put it in the chat. Above the door of an office, there was like a little vent, like a doggy door that you could open that people could throw things over to get them in the office, like the mail. So they couldn't get into the office because it was too high, but they could throw stuff up there. So over the transom means somebody will give you something, like the way someone from the NRSC would call Rob and say, hey, Rob, can we talk off the record? Rob says, yeah. He says, I've got some incredible opposition research on Troy Jackson. I'd love it to give it to you, but no fingerprints. They say no fingerprints. And Rob would say, agreed. And they'd say, well, don't you want to know what it is? And Rob said, no, you give it to me. I'll decide. And then that'd be called over the transom, even though you know who's thrown it in this case. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. I'm just telling you, I don't have anything against Mr. Jackson, and I don't know in this case what it is. I just can tell from watching him, from reading about him, and his denials that there's anything in his background that could knock him out. Just everybody wait. I just ask for you to wait a little bit, and it will all be cleared. And just to be clear, he might survive it. He might be like Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. And he might just say, they want this to be about my yesterdays, and I want it to be about your tomorrows. And he may beat Susan Collins because he survives the crucible of the stories about the water bottle throwing or whatever else comes out. We shall see. All right. Well, here's the headline from the New York Times about Maine 18. It's an incredible story. The guy, no, none of us had heard of this guy 3 weeks ago. And now the headline says he's about to be coronated next weekend. In Maine Senate race, Democrats go from chaos to coronation. Troy Jackson's emergence as the clear frontrunner to replace Graham Plattner spares the party some challenges, but points to some new ones. Rob, who's the favorite in that race? Collins or Jackson?
Susan Collins.
Susan
I mean,
Collins.
I'm gonna steal a line from watching the World Cup final last night. The commentators were talking about Argentina being like the villain in a horror movie, and every time you think they're dead, they somehow keep going and they come after you. I mean, Susan Collins. I mean, I mean, how do you possibly defeat her? You got to come up with something special. So, with all the turmoil on the Democratic side, I think she was probably licking her lips at facing Graham Plattner, but she's the favorite for me. The Democrats have a long way to go.
Josh, here's how my spidey sense works. You know why I'm quite confident the NRSC is sitting on some opposition research about Jackson? They haven't lifted a finger to slow him down. If it would be in their interest to have a big fight at the convention. Now, you could argue that would be more exciting and whatever, but really, it's not in their interest. If the guy's a juggernaut and they say, well, I don't know how we're going to stop this guy. He's not controversial, and people said, oh, well, the only way you can beat Collins if you just have a generic Democrat. I think they would have put stuff out now to try to slow him down. They've been silent. They haven't said a word about his pro-life record, about his pro-gun record. That makes me think maybe Monday morning or maybe even Sunday after he's coronated, we'll see some stuff. What do you think of my theory on that, Josh?
That's a good theory. I mean, the RNC put out something today, I think. They were trying to liken this process with the caucuses to Joe Biden being swapped out, 2 years
They've been on
ago.
that from the start, for sure.
So that's more of the angle they're pushing now, and they probably feel confident they have plenty of oppo for the actual race itself.
Yeah. I don't read the chat ever, but I glanced at it. And my friend Matthew Bartlett says being pro-gun helps in Maine. I can't make this point enough. Yes, it helps in the general election with some voters. But what the Republicans are going to do, and a normal person would say, well, how could you do both these things? You got to pick. No, they don't. With some voters, they're going to say he's conservative, he's pro-life, he's anti-abortion rights, and they're going to try to depress progressive turnout. And believe me, there's going to be more about when he was a Republican, what his conservative views were. But then they're also going to say he's a left-wing nut. He's just like the left-wingers. So they're simultaneously going to paint him as out of step with the progressive wing, but also captured by the progressive wing. And that's going to be just a bit of the challenge he has. Quick word from a sponsor, then to your comments, questions, concerns. Please raise your hand with questions for Josh and for Rob. Last sponsor of the night, our friends at Cozy Earth right now, giving members of our community 20% off everything on the site. Just use the promo code 2WAY at cozyearth.com. The bamboo sheet set and beach towels. If you got beach towels that are old, if you want beach towels that are sturdy and plush, if you've got sheets that are old, you want sheets sturdy and plush. I recommend both, and you can buy them as a set right now. Viscose made from bamboo. Your sheets, you'll look forward to going to bed. You'll sleep great. Everyone who's bought the sheets and sent me a message says they sleep better. Can't put a price on that, ladies and gentlemen. And it comes with a 100-night sleep guarantee. So sleep on them for 80 nights and you say, Mark, you were wrong. I like my old sheets better. Send them back. No questions asked. Hassle-free return. Or if you keep them, they get a 10-year warranty. Imagine how much red wine Rob would spill on those sheets in 10 years. But he can still send them back. They're breathable, soft, and built for summer. Head to cozyearth.com. Use the promo code 2WAY for an exclusive 20% off. That's promo code 2WAY, 20% off at cozyearth.com. If you get the post-purchase survey and they say, where did you hear about this? Don't say the internet. Don't say from a friend, unless you consider me a friend. Say, I heard about it on 2WAY Tonight with Josh and Rob. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Rick is first. Rick, thank you for being part of 2WAY. Unmute, please. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for Rob and for Josh.
Hi, fellas. Thank you, Mark. I do have a question about Iran and Israel, but I've been wanting to say this on your program for a while, and I wonder if anybody else feels the same way. I got to the point that with President Trump that my opinion, my feeling was always, I don't care about ballrooms and pools and all the other mess or collusion with whoever and insider trading. To that, nothing like that means anything to me with my president, because I'm not looking for a moral guider or a pastor. I'm looking for a good manager. And I thought this, a couple of weeks ago, I thought the presidency has turned into what could have been, like if he would have just targeted the tariffs rather than tariff the entire world, and then jump back and forth. If he would have taken the advice of, I think, everybody that was around him, that you cannot change the regime in Iran, it won't happen. And he did it anyway. And then a couple more weeks go by, and I watch the first 15 minutes of Morning Joe, or the first 15 minutes of CNN, or first 20 minutes of Michael Smerconish, and it drives me right back to him. And I wonder, does anybody else feel that way? I mean, by the time elections come around, could his standing and the Republican Party standing do a full recovery, just because of how, to me, how unhinged the other side is?
Rick, thank you for that. You speak for tens of millions. Josh, thoughts on Rick? You can ask Rick questions if you'd like, or respond, whichever you wish.
Well, just to clarify, so you're thinking between now and the midterms that there would be kind of a recovery of his public.
Yeah.
I mean, it all depends on how Iran shakes out in the next couple months. I think back in June, he was excited by the prospect of this 60-day pause and some sort of calm. I think the last time I was on here, actually, we were talking about that, and it was broken up by these strikes that CENTCOM announced. So it doesn't seem that there's going to be much of a change in public opinion between now and then, just given how unpredictable and repetitive this whole process has been, similar to some of the other issues you mentioned. And that's reflected in the polls pretty consistently this year too. So I would not bet on recovering much unless there's a drastic change in the war in particular.
Rob.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of voters that aren't really paying attention yet. It's still Labor Day when they get involved, so there's time for a reset. I interviewed John McLaughlin last week, Trump's favorite pollster, talking to me about the midterm convention. That will be a chance to reset the election campaign for a referendum on Trump and his achievements or lack thereof, and to draw the contrast with Democrats. Certainly, the strategists I talk to, there are still some who think that they can hold the House, and they think the key to that is some of these candidates that the Democrats are electing, the loony left, as we would call them back home in Britain. So I think there's still plenty to play for, but with gas over $4 a gallon, things start to be, the economic piece of things needs to start moving in the right direction pretty fast. But I think you're right, Rick, that there's still a long way to go, and certainly if the Republicans can make this more of a contrast election, that really is their best hope.
Rick, thank you. Rob, the only thing I disagree with what you said is you wouldn't call them the loony left, you'd call them the new government.
Well, I was hoping we'd have questions about Andy Burnham and all of that. I'm all primed.
Yeah, well, maybe we will. Aaron, welcome in. Aaron's obsessed with all things British, huge Downton Abbey head.
Huge Downton Abbey head. Lived there for a good 6 years. Lived in Cobham, Surrey.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What's your favorite fish and chips? You like good cod, man?
I like to get the grease with the newspaper oil ink as much as possible.
But what fish?
It doesn't matter. It's all the same.
It's all about the fried.
The same. Yeah.
I'm a whitefish man. Aaron, welcome in. Thank you for being here. What's on your mind for Rob and for Josh? And feel free to throw in some British idioms if you'd like.
Yeah. Good afternoon from Houston, Texas. I'm going to put everybody on record here. When does Marco Rubio go spend more time with his family?
and leave the job he has?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that man has job lock. But let's see, Josh, how long will Rubio be in those two jobs?
He's going to serve out the rest of the term.
Okay, that's pretty definitive. Rob, you disagree?
No, I don't. I mean, although things I would suggest aren't going great in Iran, do we still talk about the board of peace in Gaza? How's the rebuilding effort in Venezuela, despite all these questions? I think Marco Rubio is hugely popular inside the White House, and I can't
Yeah.
see him going anywhere.
Yeah, Aaron, why do you ask? Do you have a feeling otherwise, or?
Well, I don't think he's going to get fired. I think he's going to abandon ship. I think
Yeah.
I think I'm calling right about now the end of the Trump presidency. This is
Because of
Iran's
Iran?
not Iran's not getting better. You know, there are people that follow the congressional races kind of, seat by seat. I'm not that guy, but it just seems like the sentiment in my bubble has completely turned on Trump, and it's just it's all downhill from here. I don't know why Marco Rubio would stick around for it. Well, I mean, once the hearings on, I mean, I'm assuming everybody here subscribes to Truth Millisecond. When the hearings start on all of that stuff,
Yeah.
It's just gonna. I mean, why would you stick around for that?
Yeah. Maybe he'll become prime minister of Cuba.
I think
That'd be a
that's
good job. I mean,
that'd be a good job.
I bet whatever eligibility requirements Marco Rubio sets up for his precepts, or whatever it's called in Cuba, he'll make himself eligible. Aaron, thank you, guys. I got to read you one thing before we go. You guys know comedian Whitney Cummings? You fan of Whitney Cummings?
She was at the Mark Twain Prize.
She
she
was
not?
at the Mark Twain Prize.
Yes.
Have you guys ever been to that event?
I was there.
Yeah. Okay. So as you know, they do it and then they record it and they show it like 2 months later. Same with the Kennedy Center Honors. I don't understand why they sit on this stuff. And they typically do not edit out much. Typically, they'll tighten it up, right? So if there's some technical issue or delay, according to Whitney Cummings, Netflix cut one of her jokes in the version that's airing this week. I don't know how she already knows that. Maybe they let her see a rough cut. Here's the joke, and you guys.
I might know the joke.
You heard it. You heard it.
I was there.
Yeah, so you heard this joke, and you'll tell us what the reaction in the room was when she made it.
Can I guess if it's the one you're about to read?
Well, I'll read it, and you tell me if you knew. Ready?
Well, I'm predicting right now. I know exactly the one.
Okay, I believe you. We'll believe you. I bet you're right. Here's what the joke said. I'm quoting her joke verbatim as she says she delivered it. I actually heard Trump may come tonight, but he couldn't make it. He got caught in sex traffic. Yeah. What was the reaction in the room?
Scattered laughs.
Yeah.
A couple of oohs.
Yeah.
And then she said, "Oh, they told me not to tell that joke."
Yeah. Well, she says they followed through. They cut it. They care nothing of the First Amendment at the Trump Kennedy Center or at the Kennedy Center, whatever you want to call it. Rob, where can people see your work if they're besotted with your sensibility and want every piece of content you emit?
If you want more jokes worse than that, you can find me at Washington Secrets. You can sign up for my newsletter there with the Washington Examiner.
Washington Examiner. And Josh always wants to just have everybody follow the paper and read his bureau. How many reporters do you have in that bureau, Josh?
6.
It's an incredible bureau, ladies and gentlemen. It's like a throwback to the old days. They're just down there. They put the T in TMZ. I don't know what that means, but they're everything TMZ is trying to be.
I don't know if we like that comparison.
Well, my point is you're doing high and low at the same time. They get interviews with the president all the time, and great access and interviews and best coverage of Washington. So, Josh, where can people find your work?
Yeah, follow NYPost.com.
Yeah.
If you're a print subscriber, go for that print subscription too, and follow me at Twitter at @JChristenson_.
How's the New York Post, California Post working? That seems good.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, they got newsstands out there, print version too.
Yeah.
There's a little toggle switch at the top of the page. Most people probably have found out between California Post and New York Post.
I use it every day. I'll tell you the best places in America are the places where you can buy both the Boston Herald and the New York Post. Certain parts of Connecticut, it's a dream. And some places in Massachusetts, too. It's just a dream to be able to go and buy 2 filthy pieces of newsprint and read them both. And but grateful to you both for being here. Rob, you ever seen this show before you were on it?
Well, you know what? I listen to your podcast. I'm not a big video guy, so I'm more of a podcast guy.
All right. Well, this show's available on podcast. Grateful to you both for being here. This show will be on again in 23 hours. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time, Larry and Kevin's back from assignment. So Larry, Kevin, and I will be on the morning meeting. My guests tomorrow on Next Up include Nancy Mace, who just took herself out of the Senate race. Disappointing because I won't be interviewing as a Senate candidate. Good because I'm hoping she's completely unbound. And Nancy Mace Unbound is a good guest. It's a good guest. So we'll see you tomorrow for those 3 programs. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you all for being part of Two Way. We'll see you tomorrow night or tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Have a great evening, everybody.